Continuing on in our seminar, we are going to look here at the square roots of a quotient. Okay, and depending on the problem, you are going to have this. If you have a quotient, I can do the square root of the numerator divided by the square root of the denominator. So let's apply that to this problem. So if I have the square root of 36 over the square root of 25, notice we know how to find the square root of 36. So that's the same thing as 36 over 25. Well, the square root of 36 is 6. The square root of 25 is 5. There's our solution, 6/5. Now, we never talked anything about a mixed number. So let's not do a mixed number. Let's change that to a fraction. So that's going to be the square root of 49 over 4. Now I can rewrite that as the square root of 49 over the square root of 4. So we get 7 over 2. And there's your answer. Now if we look at example 8, notice square root of 45 I'd have to make a factor tree for. But notice 5 goes in to 45. So I can do this as the square root of 45 over 5. 45 divided by 5 is 9. Oh, look at that. That turns out so pretty. Square root of 3. Now, what happens if you can't take the square root of the numerator and the denominator? That's what we're going to be looking at next. If I have the square root of a fraction and I can't reduce it, I can't have a square root in the denominator. So whatever my denominator is, I'm going to multiply that by the square root of that over the square root of that number. And the whole idea here is, remember, when I take a number divided by itself, it's 1. I'm not changing my fraction. If you multiply by 1, you get the same answer. It's just it simplifies nice because the square root of a times the square root of b is the square root of ab. I'll have to do that. But the square root of b times the square root of b is b, so I don't have a fraction or a radical in my fraction. I don't have it in my denominator. That's what's called rationalizing the denominator. I get rid of the square root. That's what you do when you rationalize the denominator. Now, let's take a look at a couple problems there. So on example 11, we got the square root of 2 over the square root of 27. Whatever is in the denominator, I'm going to multiply that out. So I get the square root of 27 times the square root of 27. 2 times 27 is the square root of 54. All over 27. Now, I still have to simplify the square root of 54. Notice the square root of 54 is the square root of 9 times the square root of 6. I can't break 6 down, so that's 3 square roots of 6. So in other words, I'm going to say 3 square roots of 6 all over 27. And just like any fraction, we want to reduce that. 3 goes into 27 9 times. So this whole thing simplifies to the square root of 6 over 9. And there's your answer. There's a lot going on there. Let's take a look at example 12. Now I think I'm going to simplify this a little bit first. Notice I can find the square root of 9. That's 3. And I can find the square root of 4. That's 2. My a's reduce out, don't they? This b makes that a 3. So I get 3 over the square root of b cubed. Well then, I'm going to multiply the numerator and denominator by the square root of b cubed. So my numerator is 3 square root of b cubed all over 2 b cubed. This is just one way to do it, but I like this way. Now I got to simplify the square root of b cubed. Well, that's the square root of b squared times the square root of b, isn't it? And the square root of b squared is b. So my numerator is going to be 3b square root of b all over 2b cubed. And this b takes out one of those. So I'm still going to simplify more. So we get 3 square roots of b all over 2b squared because I took out one of the b's. And that, as far as it simplifies. Oh, I forgot to do the first one. Well, let's do it now. So we're going to multiply by the square root of 8 to numerator and denominator. So I get the square root of 24n all over 8. So the square root of 24 is the square root of 4 times the square root of 6. So that's 2 square roots of 6. So I'm going to say, and then my n just stays under there, doesn't it? So I get 2 square root 6n all over 8. Well, 2 goes into 8 4 times. So we get the square root of 6n all over 4. Teaches me right for shrinking that in so much. Oh, I also got to do the square root of 54. I forgot to do example 9. Let's go back and do that one. Okay. So now 6 goes into 54 9 times. So I get 1 over the square root of 9, which is 1 over 3. There's that page for us.